Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I am Sue DeCaro here with,
Erin Taylor.
and we are co-founders of Building Connected Communities, which is a company dedicated to bringing people together for our children and our world. Today, we have a special guest, Emily A. Filmore. Welcome, Emily.
Hi.
Emily is a former attorney, writes on the topics of spirituality, parenting, and health for international publications. She's the author, along with Neil Donald Walsh and Lori Lenkins Farley, of Conversations with God for Parents. This is a book written to help parents share the messages from the Conversations with God series written by Neil Donald Walsh with their children. She is also Director of Program Development for the School of the New Spirituality, an educational organization founded by Neil Donald Walsh to assist parents in increasing their understanding about CWG's core messages, Conversation with God's core messages. Emily lives a fulfilled life in spite of having an autoimmune disorder for the past 20 years, which she discusses in her book, The Marvelous Transformation, Living Well with Autoimmune Disease. She has also written 2 children's books in the With My Child series. It's a beautiful day for yoga, and it's a beautiful day for a walk. Emily has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri, and a Juris Doctor from St. Louis University School of Law with a certificate in International and Comparative Studies. So, Emily, that's a very long list of wonderful wonderful things that you have done in your life, and we look forward to talking with you a little bit more about them. So we welcome you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you. You know, it doesn't feel like I've done a lot considering that I've been sick for the last 20 years, but then when I'm asked to write it all down, wow, I don't know how I've done it all. So thank you.
Lots of accomplishments.
Yes, huge. And I guess before we start, we should share with everyone that Sue and I met you, Emily, at Dr. Shefali's first annual Evolve conference in Long Beach, California in December. And Sue, I think I can speak for you that we were mesmerized sitting in the audience listening to you and Laurie talk about your book, with Neil Donald Walsh. It was just a fabulous presentation, and we just both instantly felt drawn to you and your spirit, and Laurie's too, when we heard you guys talk.
Oh, thank you. That was a thrill to be up on that stage and be able to share Conversations with God for Parents with people and our ideas of we are all one, and you know, the 5 natural emotions and how to help your children, you know how to deal with them to be healthy human beings. So it was a beautiful experience.
Before we go any further, that blew my mind when you guys talked about that. We weren't really necessarily going to go there today, but can you just briefly touch on how those emotions, when they're not nourished or allowed to be expressed, how they go sour? Because I think that is so beneficial to know.
Okay, if I stumble, I'm going to tell you that part of the disease process that I'm dealing with right now is some memory and cognitive problems, so it might take me a second. But so the 5 natural emotions are love, fear, anger, envy, and grief. And all of these stem from love. So you can see that any kind of fear that you ever have, and this is in the spiritual realm, I'm not a psychologist, so this is all in terms of our spiritual, our soul's being. So you can see that all of them stem from love, actually. So any kind of fear that you have is a natural outpouring of love. A parent feels fear when they have so much love for their child that they don't want anything to happen to their child. Envy actually is a very healthy emotion that makes you want to reach for more. So envy is not necessarily that you see someone else doing something and you think, oh, that terrible person, how can they have more than me? Envy is the positive side of that I see someone, for instance, another parent doing something in a better way that I wish I could do, and I think, oh, I want to strive to be better than myself. I want to be like them. So envy is a more positive kind of take on jealousy, and I'll get to jealousy in a second. Grief is, of course, the withdrawal, when you feel withdrawal of someone in your life or of something that you value. Grief is the feeling that that love has been, taken away, or that you're feeling the absence of that. So grief is an outpouring of love as well. Where did I go? Hold on a second. Anger. Of course, we all feel anger, and everybody has somehow in this society come to think that anger is a negative emotion. Anger is not a negative emotion. Anger tells you, stop, the action that you're doing is not correct. And this is, again, on a spiritual level. Anger tells you, don't do that anymore, find a different course. And, okay. And then love, there is also a negative side of love. But everything that we do in love, we do out of love. But then when we maybe take it to the wrong extreme, it goes into the negative side. So now I'll tell you the negative sides. So love, if it's not expressed in a fulfilling, positive way, can go to possession. So we all know that. We can see that in teenagers. We can see that in young adults. We can see it in adults as well, who are not taught to, and we can see it in all of pop culture songs as well. When people are not taught to present love in a positive way, they go to possession. So, my husband and I work very hard to have a complete partnership, but we don't possess each other. We leave each other to have free expression of who we are, even if we don't always agree with each other in how we express who we are, but we love each other unconditionally anyway, because that's the commitment we made to each other on our wedding day. It wasn't that we were going to love each other if, it was we were going to love each other no matter what, even if that meant at some point that we couldn't be together anymore. And so that meant that every single day we choose over and over again to love each other no matter what. And we choose every day to be together. And it's a different thing than possession. If I had thought, I'm going to possess this person for the rest of my life, then I would feel ownership over his actions, and I would feel that I could have anger and anger over what he does. But when I choose to love him anyway, and I choose to be with him every day, then I don't have any possession over his actions. Okay, so that was a little bit long. Fear goes to panic, and that's that fear makes you act in order to prevent injury, prevent harm. But when it goes to panic, you're frozen. When you're panicked, you can't act. So the spiritual negative side of fear is panic, and that's not something that is beneficial to the human being or to the soul. Grief goes to depression, and if you learn to express your grief as a child, and when something negative happens, to say, gosh, this hurts so bad, and you're not told, don't cry, it's not okay to cry, wipe those tears, buck up, be a big girl. If you're not told those things, and you're told, oh, honey, let it out, feel this pain, and then let's figure out how to move on from it, then you're not stuffing. And we've all heard about people who have that black hole inside that stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. And then at some point it explodes. Well, if we teach children, get it out, punch a pillow, go run it off outside. If we teach children that, then we have set them up so that they can process grief all throughout their lives, and they're not holding terrible things in. Envy. Envy is the thing that makes me want to reach for that doorknob that I can't reach yet. And I see my big sister reaching for it, and I keep reaching and keep reaching and keep reaching. Or with my daughter, she's a figure skater, and she's working on her axles right now, and she sees the bigger girls landing their axles, and she says, why can't I land my axle? And I say, look at those big girls, see what they're doing, study what they're doing, and then emulate them. That's envy. Jealousy is, ugh, they're doing it, I'm a better skater than them, why can't I do it? So the negative side of envy is jealousy, and that breeds kind of hatred. It's not a positive thing. So all of the emotions have the ability to lift us up, to spur us to action, to lead us to our higher selves, or if they're not processed, if they are not properly realized within ourselves, they can lead to negative sides, which lead us to pain. So.
Beautifully said.
It's just profound.
Yeah.
I love it. I just when you guys described that at the conference, I couldn't write fast enough. Oh my gosh, this is brilliant. I love it.
And it really all comes to communication. So, if your viewers are saying, how can I remember all of this? It really comes down to communication, and it comes down to meeting your child in the moment and never telling your child, you don't have the right to feel what it is that you're feeling. And that's really all that you need to know. From a spiritual perspective, we are here to be and experience ourselves as spiritual beings in a human body. And so when we meet our children as fully actualized spiritual beings who are in a human body, who at birth are full and complete beings, they're not lesser beings. We aren't their owners. They are not people who are here to, lord over or possess or any of those kinds of things. When we look at them as fully actualized beings, that we are just their custodians to help usher them into the world, and we say to them, you are entitled to every emotion that you have, because you know what? Gosh darn it, I have awful days, and I have days where all I want to do is cry, all I want to do is throw a fit, all I want to do is scream. And if someone came to me and said, you don't have the right to your emotions, I am a peacekeeper, I'm a pacifist, but I would punch him in the face. So why should I tell my child, you're not allowed to have your emotions, And that doesn't say that there's not a time and a place where you can say to your child, is it time that we try to process and move on? But it's not, there is a time and a place, and you must process and move on. It's helping them usher through. Can we move on now? Is there something I can do to help you move on? Can I hold the pillow for you while you punch it? Can I hold you to help dry your tears? It's not ever about telling them, the time is now. It's, is the time, and what can I do to steward you through that?
It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So I wanted to read a little piece that I found in your wonderful book here, The Marvelous Transformation, Living Well with Autoimmune Disease.
Thank you.
There's a piece I want to read in here because, as you know, chronic illness can impact every aspect of your life. And the more I learn about you and your life, the more in awe I am about how you're able to manage your chronic illness. And truly, you're like a beacon of light to me. You're one of the most positive, bubbly, positive. I said it again. It keeps coming up. You're just like a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And to be able to be that way with all that you manage on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is just awe-inspiring to me.
Well, I appreciate that.
Sure. So I wanted to read this piece that I found in your book, your wonderful book, and just have you say a little something about it.
Okay.
The wonderful pieces of divinity I have found. Humor is your friend. Appreciate the little things. Sometimes your mood comes down to a choice. Do you want to be happy or sad today? People help you as a way of showing love when they feel helpless against your disease. And you may not control your disease, but you control how you think and feel about it. Therefore, you control your experience. I think that is just beautiful.
Thank you. And you actually picked out, that's funny, because you picked out the piece that is really the main crux of how I live my life. I mean, I wrote a whole book, so people could read that part and know how I lead my life. But there's a whole lot of other stuff in there to try to help guide people to get to that. But really, that is the main crux of what I do. So humor is huge. I mean, look, at 19 years old, came down with these symptoms that nobody could explain, and they told me they didn't know whether I was going to live. They didn't know what was wrong with me, or maybe you're just so crazy that you've made it all up, and you're manifesting this rash. I mean, I had these like open, oozing, bleeding sores all over my body, so maybe I could manifest that, just to get attention. So I couldn't do anything but laugh about it. Otherwise, I was going to crumble into a heap and I was going to fulfill their prophecy and just die. Because it was so overwhelming. At 19 years old, I had my whole life ahead of me. I had huge plans. I wanted to conquer the world. And if I had not laughed, if I had not, and I had always been kind of a humorous person inside, you know, I'm terrible at telling jokes. If you ask me to tell a joke, I cannot tell a joke. In fact, the first time that Neil Donald Walsh, who mentored me through writing the book, the first time he read the book, he said, "I don't know why you're not a stand-up comedian." I said, "Because I cannot tell a joke. I can't. They won't come out of my mouth." But anyway, so, and then when I met Scott, my husband, and, you know, on our very first date, I said, I have this thing that they still don't know what it is. This was 8 years later, or, well, I guess, yeah, when it was about 8 years later. I said, they still don't know what's wrong with me. They think it's fibromyalgia, but, you know, I can't promise you what kind of person, partner I could be. And, you know, this is on our first date. But I thought, I'm going to be full disclosure because I had already had one failed marriage, and I'm not going through that again, you know. So when I met him, though, I found a satirical, sarcastic partner that was great. I mean, and throughout the book, I mean, our humor in how we approach things is just, you know, one of our favorite stories is the "oops, I crap my pants" story. You know, I mean, we were at the hospital. We thought possibly we were losing Sage because I was having vomiting and diarrhea because it ended up that I had shingles, but it was on the digestive tract, and so I had uncontrollable emissions from both ends, and in the ER, while we were waiting for them to tell me what's wrong, we just started going to the Saturday Night Live skit of "Oops, I crap my pants," because what else were we going to do? I mean, otherwise I was going to be just in a heap on the floor crying, and you know, so that's how we get through things. And I think that, you know, it's not to be irreverent, it's not to be disrespectful of the process, and it's not to be disrespectful of what other people go through when they have this or other diseases, but it does lighten the mood. It does change everything, and we do it with our daughter too. I mean, not to be disrespectful when she falls and she skins her knee and it's bleeding, but, you know, we say, well, I'll give you a 10 for it. I mean, hey, you know, I mean, if you look at your life as humdrum and constantly what is going wrong and what's the next worst thing that's going to happen, the next worst thing is going to happen because the lens, you wrote an article about the lens through which you live, and that lens is so important. It's where you put your attention, where you direct your attention is what you see, and so we choose to look through humor. You know, in terms of family members who can be overwhelming, it took me a long time to realize that when they were overwhelming, it was because they felt so out of control that they were trying to help me any way that they could. And just as when Sage was a baby, I was, you know, bundling her up and protecting her in every way I could, family members who loved me were trying to do that in a psychic, you know, emotional way. I'm trying to think of the other ones that were in there because I went on a little bit long about the first humor one, but it's really about where you put your attention. Yeah, it's really about where you put your attention. Just loving life is so important. You know, Sage and I were just doing a unit in our homeschool about the Holocaust, and we watched a documentary about this lady who was in the work camps, and they were marched from one work camp to the other, and there was this really pivotal scene she was talking about after liberation. I mean, this is liberation, after D-Day, when the troops were still making, you know, it took 1.5 years or 2 years to make it all the way across Germany and actually liberate all of the prisoners. And these women were being marched from one camp to the other, and women were dying because it was winter and it was terrible. And she said, I was marching across the tundra, basically. It was frozen, and she said, and I was picturing what dress. I was debating with myself in my head, what dress am I going to wear at my celebration party when I get out of here? And she said, that is what got me through. And I'm always a teary mess. I mean, I cry all the time, but happy tears, sad tears, everything. I feel my emotions so fully that I cry very easily. And she was saying that the people who were around me who were saying, we're never going to get out of this. This is terrible. I'm so cold. I'm so hungry. She said, unfortunately, those are the people who didn't make it. She said, I was cold. I was hungry. I was scared. How are we ever going to get out of this? She said, but I chose to occupy my mind with what I was going to do when I got out. And I lived in a fantasy world as I was tromping through the snow. And she said, I really believe that the people who made it were the people who had a fantasy world going on in their brain and removed themselves. And I think that's a lot of how I have stayed so emotionally healthy through the disease as well. And I think that's, a lot of what the book is about.
Wow. Well, in thinking about your illness and how it affects you and affects your family, of course, you've told us about humor, but when you think about your relationships within the family, is there anything that you see in terms of the effect it has? I think your humor speaks loudly for how you move through things, but I'm just curious if there's any other impact that you see on family members that you could share with our audience that might help them as well.
Oh, definitely.
How do you work with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's really important to acknowledge that when a parent specifically has a chronic illness, it affects the whole family. My husband works, he's an attorney, so he works crazy long hours, longer hours than are humanly possible, in my opinion. And he still has to come home, and he still has to take care of me. He still has to, I can't do the dishes because I have something called Raynaud's syndrome, which is nerve damage in my fingers, so I can't handle hot or cold, and I also can't grip things, so darn, I can't do dishes. But he does the dishes, and I can't carry things up and downstairs because of the muscle damage in my hips and my shoulders, so he does the laundry, which, he works 90 hours. What the heck? How on earth can I expect that he's going to come home and do those things? And he still does them with a smile on his face, and he brings the laundry up and he puts it in our bedroom, and I fold it on the days that I feel strong enough to fold it. And never once in our entire 13 years together has he ever complained. I see him get tired. I see him stressing about his billable hours as an attorney because he has to take me to surgeries, he has to take me to treatments, he has to take me, to other cities for doctor's appointments. So as a couple, it definitely affects his life. But he is very supportive and very loving, and I make sure, because I can't step up, and take back over the dishes, and I can't take back over the laundry. I make sure to acknowledge it as often as possible, and I say, I appreciate you. I know this isn't exactly what you signed up for. I know that that's got to be hard that you have to do the dishes. And he just says, it's okay, I love you. It's a nothing to him, So I think that that's a really important thing, that people with chronic illness acknowledge and understand that your spouse is affected by it too. It's really easy to get selfish and say, I don't feel good, and I this and I that, but acknowledging it to your spouse or your partner, I acknowledge that you are affected by this, and I appreciate everything that you do. So that's the one thing. My daughter has never known a healthy mommy. I was counting this morning while I was getting ready. I can count 15 surgeries that she's watched me have. Wow. And there are more because I can't count all of the eye surgeries I've had. There's too many of them. So she's never known what it's like to have a healthy mommy. And, I think when she came into this world, she was probably, inherently the goal that she had coming into this world was to be an empathic and loving human being. But I think that being the daughter of a mommy with chronic illness has helped her on that path. And she's a beautiful being of light. She is so empathetic to other people. She takes money, if she has her little purse with her and she sees somebody asking for money on the street, she doesn't even question it. She always gives it to them. She is always asking me, Mommy, what can we do to help other people? And, I don't know how much I have impacted her in that, but I can definitely see that when she sees other children who are sick, when she sees people who are disabled, people who have outward signs, like crutches or wheelchairs or whatever, that she always wants to go talk to them, and not in a nosy kind of like, what's wrong with you kind of way, but she wants to let them know that they're being seen as a human being and not as a person in a wheelchair, just like she does anybody else, you know. So I think that's really beautiful. I think that on the flip side, she is negatively affected as well, and so that goes back to those 5 emotions that we discussed earlier. See, you didn't know that you were bringing something up that was going to come back around. But we have never told her it's not okay to be scared. In fact, we have talked at length about it. You know, we tried not necessarily to keep anything from her about my disease, but we tried to give her appropriate amounts of information. So we never lied to her when I was going to a surgery, because we thought, what if the worst thing could happen? And then you have to backtrack and say, well, we lied to you. We didn't want her trust in Daddy to be harmed, you know, by us lying to her. So we were always honest, of course, within what was appropriate for her to know. And we always have told her, you know, no matter what, Mommy's doing my best to be as healthy as possible. Daddy's doing his best to help Mommy be as healthy as possible. And, you know, she would see the things that I was doing. The funny thing is, though, is that I used to be a junk food junkie. I was terrible, and it was partly because I didn't know, but it was also partly out of energy, you know, lack of energy to work harder for healthy food. And so I was a big McDonald's freak. I loved my fast food. And she started noticing at like 3 years old that if I ate bad food, my energy would plummet. And so she did. She's very intuitive. And so she started getting on me about it. And so we kind of had to discuss a little bit about, you know, each person has the right to make their own decisions. And until Mommy was ready to make the decision to eat more healthy food, that it wasn't really, you know, her concern was appreciated, but that she couldn't make me change my habits. But, you know, it does affect everybody. And in parenting a child, when you have chronic illness, I think it's really important to know that honesty, to the extent that they can understand, is crucial, because they can see it anyway. They know anyway. Yeah. And, you know, if you're trying to build a trusting relationship and you lie to them, then they're not going to trust you on the rest of the things. And so honesty is really important. Picking your battles is also really important. So we've worked really hard, excuse me, to help her. We worked really hard to help her see that even though Mommy was limited in these ways, I could make her life beautiful in other ways. So that's what I mean by picking her battles. Like, maybe I couldn't, well, for a while I could go on hikes, but maybe I couldn't be the most adventuresome Mommy in, you know, going out in the world and going skiing and, you know, going on huge hikes, but we could find different ways to have adventures. And it also made me much more present, in that we had much more of a close bond. We learned a lot more about our own inner landscapes together. We had better conversations together. We were more introspective, and when we did go on walks, since they were slower than other people's may have been, we stopped and smelled the roses, literally. You know, so we had a lot more time to get to know each other, I think, than if we would have been more, quote unquote, active, as what is typical. And I think another really big thing for parents is to let go of guilt, because I've had a lot of guilt in my parenting that I can't. In fact, I had a situation yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw that I posted on Facebook, but we were supposed to go on a field trip.
Yes.
And
I saw that.
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm having some cognitive issues that it's so strange when they come up, and some memory issues, and I will just like completely blank and forget something, and it's not, you know, it's not simple. It's pretty complicated. But yesterday we were supposed to go on this field trip, and I wrote it down in my calendar as noon, and I printed out the paper, and I've looked at the paper in the past 2 weeks numerous times and read that it started at 12 numerous times. Yesterday morning I looked at it 4 times, and read that it started at 12. We got in the car. I had the paper so I could put the address into my GPS. And all of a sudden, 10 o'clock, like, flew off the page at me. And I was like, what? 10 o'clock? It's at noon. How did that happen, you know? And I don't know what, it's some kind of cognitive glitch that I was reading it and reading it as noon, or maybe at some point my brain had decided it was noon, so it was replacing it. You know, I have no idea how that happened, but over and over and over and over again, I thought it was noon. And so we missed the field trip. And so I had, 30 seconds or 45 seconds of just like utter devastation and guilt. Oh my gosh, how could I have let my disease interfere in this way? And I looked at her, and I mean, we had to go get gas before we could go to the field trip. So we pull into the gas station, and I'm standing pumping the gas thinking, I'm going to lose it. I am going to lose it. Like this, it felt like the biggest thing in the world. It's a field trip. But for some reason, it felt like the biggest thing in the world because it felt like I had done what I've always tried not to do, which is let my disease interfere in her life. And so I'm standing there pumping the gas thinking, this is one of those things that you can make a choice. You can choose this. That was one of your things. You can choose to be happy right now, or you can choose to let this control the rest of the day. And you've got to make a choice before you get in the car, because you can help her know that it's okay, or you can let her know that this is like a really big deal. She doesn't really understand how scary this is, that you forgot or that you misunderstood the paper. She doesn't really understand that. So you've got to make a choice before you get back in the car. So I was deep breathing as deeply as I could. Gas fumes, of course. Great. Maybe it helped. I don't know. And I thought, I can't let this ruin this, because that'll just take me down a whole nother road, of worrying more about the brain and, all that kind of stuff. And so I got back in the car and I said, okay, Mommy messed up. What do you want to do? Do you want to go to the park and walk? Do you want to do something else? And she said, I'd really like to go to that pottery place that we haven't gone to yet. And I said, okay, let me call and see what it is, because I had no idea, like, you have to pay like $30 to even walk in the door or what, So I called, and it was reasonable, and I said, let's go paint pottery. And we sat there for 3.5 hours. We had a blast. It was so much fun, and, it was cold yesterday, so it was probably better anyway that we weren't out trying to tromp around in the woods on a field trip anyway. And it was great. We had a really great time. But I had to make a choice in that moment. Am I going to let my disease control my parenting, or is my parenting going to supersede my disease?
I have to just interject that the inspiration that you are for parents human beings who are listening to this recording. I mean, I'm getting chills just by listening to your stories and listening to you talk, and how you live your life, and how you bring humor to your daily practice, to your daily life, to the things that are going on, how you make these choices in your parenting, and in mistakes that occur in everybody's life, but maybe more because of the mental things that are going on, the challenges there, and also the relationship that you and your husband have. I mean, when I heard you describe that too, enormously inspirational to hear how you work together, how you come together, how you support one another, and how you shift gears, since you can't do some of the things to support in a physical way, and how you use your gratitude to help, bring the energy back to what is going on in that moment, and to really relate to where your husband is. And I have to say, I am incredibly moved and touched, and knowing your story already, but just to hear you talk today has just been enormous. My heart is filled with just compassion, love, and respect, and inspiration for all that you do on a daily basis. And I think everyone that hears this interview will feel the same as well.
Oh, thank you. I think it's about conscious living, not just conscious parenting. So.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
sure.
that's what I was going to say as well. You just exude being a conscious person, and trying to bring yourself back to the present moment when you slip away, when you worry, and just constantly bring yourself back and try to be as present and positive and hopeful as you can. And you know, everything you're talking about to me shows that you have an incredible amount of inner resilience and strength.
Mm.
And what an inspiration you are to other people. I mean, think about when you get on Facebook or you gather with people, you know, you haven't seen in a while or wherever. Inevitably, it tends to devolve into, oh my gosh, I got a flat tire, and can you believe I had to get a new tire yesterday? I just put them on 3.5 years ago. How do I need new ones already? You know, or, oh, I can't believe my washer broke and I have to buy a new one, or, you know, whatever nonsense complaining that we can easily get hung up on. You know, we have this little, in the grand scheme of things, it's a bump, a little blip on the radar, but if we're not being conscious and mindful and keeping the larger picture of life in perspective, we can get hyper-focused on this little tiny thing that causes us some disruption today. But really, in the scheme of our lives, it really matters not at all. And so I think anyone listening to you today talk about that deep inner strength and resiliency you have, and the lightness that you bring to these very long-term challenges that you realistically have to live with. And you've learned how to kind of compartmentalize it and, okay, this is a piece of who I am, but it will not define me. I'll have to deal with it when it comes to visit and causes some inconvenience, but then I'll deal with it, and then it'll go back in the box on the shelf because that's not who I am. It's just a piece of me.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to say is having chronic illness doesn't have to lead to chronic unhappiness.
Oh, I love it. That is poster worthy.
Yeah.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
So I mean, clearly you work extremely hard, or I should say extremely mindfully, at having a healthy relationship with probably everyone, your son, I mean, your husband, your daughter, and probably, I'm guessing, everybody that you encounter. And you're doing this work with Neale Donald Walsch. You've written all these books. You have a law degree. You've accomplished so much, and you're doing so much with this chronic illness. What is it what helps you to keep your strength up? Because I know you go through the ups and downs on a monthly basis with your treatments. So what do you do to keep your strength up and refill your bucket?
You know, I have to be really mindful of when it's time to turn everything off and go to sleep. I hug my family. I get so much energy and so much calmness from them. I'm choking up. Wow. That's terrible. I draw on their love so much for my strength, and for they're my will to go on, and my will to, you know, because I do get scared. I mean, it's not that I'm not so above all of it that something happens and I don't have those fears and panics happen. You know, I do have them happen, but then I ground myself in knowing that I'm here to be who I am, to be a mom, maybe to be an author. You know, I have all of these little things, but mostly I'm here to be Scott's wife, to be Sage's mom. Ricky lives with us, my nephew, to be what I am to him, his aunt, and to be the parental figure in the home for him. And when I pull myself out of being sick and into the role of being the mother of the family, then the disease can't have any hold on me. And so I can still be tired, and I can still feel weak, and I can still feel the physical symptoms, but they don't mean anything to me in those moments. So I think that's really where I draw my strength, and I can feel a lot better. And I also, I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I give myself a lot of Reiki.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, so that's a beautiful thing. But I mean, I think that I constantly remind myself that I'm a being of light, and I deserve, as a being of light, as everyone else on the planet is, to be happy. And I'm going to search out every avenue to be happy. And if that means I'm going to lay down and read, or watch TV or listen to music or just hug my child or pet my dog, whatever it is, I'm going to do that.
That's great. So what would you suggest or recommend to others who are experiencing a similar situation in their life? I mean, certainly everything that you've talked about today, I think would inspire anyone, with a chronic illness, how to take some of these methods or ways that you live your life, your consciousness, your intentions, your being in the moment, your refocus and choices. Are there other things that you might suggest to those people who are watching, they're looking for some advice or help in moving forward?
Yeah, I think the first thing is really to just stop and breathe. I think that connecting with your breath in any situation, whether it's happy or sad, because being overly happy can actually zap your energy too, especially with chronic illness. I mean, any fluctuation of energy can really take it out of you. So I think being really mindful of breath is so important in all of in any kind of situation. And once you've connected with your breath, asking yourself, what do I want to choose right now? What situation, or not situation, what experience do I want to have in this moment? And it can be that I want to be quiet. It can be that I want to have joy. It can be that I want to hug my child, whatever it is. And, I don't know how to tell people how to cure their chronic illness, because obviously I'm going through, I have infusions every month. So if I knew how to do that, I would tell you. I haven't figured that out yet. I've figured out ways through natural remedies, and, I take herbs every day. I have energy work done. I get massages. I have found ways, and I've cleaned up the nutrition that I take in so that I eat very cleanly. I have found ways to help support my body so that it can work in a more cleanly functioning way. But that still hasn't cured my disease. So I've had to cure my thoughts around my disease. And I think that that's what's most important, is curing your thoughts around your illness, condition, whatever it is. And so stopping and, possibly meditating, connecting with the breath, and then choosing the experience that you want. You can choose to ruminate, you can choose to succumb, or you can choose to have a happy and fulfilled life. You can choose to complain about, like you said, the tires. I mean, I could list off right now 5 body parts that hurt, that are tingling, but I'm ignoring them. Again, directing my attention towards the positive. I can also tell you that my body is soaring right now with energy and love and happiness at the opportunity to talk to both of you and to share, a message of hope and a message of inspiration, that you don't have to be stuck in fear. And if you just in every moment ask yourself, what is the way to love my body? What is the way to choose hope instead of fear? What is the way to choose inspiration instead of depression? I think that that's conscious living. It's not always about, how do you cure the body, because disease is really biology meets environment, and we don't always have control over that, no matter how badly we want to. So I think it's the workaround is, how can I cure my thoughts around it?
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. And you're saying your energy is soaring, having the chance to talk with us. My energy is soaring just thinking about the impact you're going to make on the people who watch this video.
Thank you.
And I agree with what you said, Erin, and I can also feel your energy. I can feel your energy, and it's very powerful.
Oh, well, thank you. I really enjoy getting to share with people, because sometimes I think I'm just a little housewife in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm just sitting here in my house with my barky dog and my little girl, and we go skate every day, So it's really exciting when I get to share. And, and when you were reading my bio earlier, it's like, is that really me? Like, I mean, I know I did all of that, but it's kind of neat to, as I get to still experience real life. And I took the books to the Center for Spiritual Living here, and the lady said, "Oh, we have a celebrity. You wrote with Neil Donald Walsh," and I was like, I'm just Emily. I don't. That doesn't feel like celebrity. I mean, of course, I know it's a big deal. I mean, it was an honor to write with him, but I'm still just me, and I want people to know that I am a normal person, and I face, I have the terrible financial repercussions of being sick for 20 years. I mean, I have all of those stresses just like everybody else. So don't think that I'm sitting in some ivory tower that, oh, it's easy for you to say you're an author. And no, I mean, we're dealing with all of the stresses that normal people deal with. How are we going to pay the $3,500 of medical bills I already have from January 1st to now?
Wow.
How in the heck are we going to pay that? I have no idea, but we have a gratitude jar that every day we write in. Thank you for abundance. Thank you for health. Thank you for having a beautiful dinner tonight. Thank you for the healthy food. And we're doing that because we believe that in order to shift the experience that we're having, which is, how are we going to pay that $3,500? We have to shift the energy into a more positive space, and gratitude is the way that we do that. So, I'm not in an ivory tower.
Definitely not. But you know what? I just see like a rainbow over you. Just a rainbow of color, light, love, energy. Oh, you are just awesome, Emily Filmore.
Thank you. You guys are awesome too. And I have to tell you, when I met you, when we were at the conference, I mean, it was a beautiful experience. I mean, what an amazing opportunity to get to speak with Dr. Shefali and Malika Chopra, and of course Neil, and and everybody else that was there. Atomic Moms. I mean, Roma Kaiser Paul. I mean, it was just an amazing experience, and Lori and I were like pinching each other, like, are we really here? But I mean, when we met you guys, we were just like, wow, it's like a pair. Like, we're a pair, they're a pair. But it was great to meet you, and you were both so welcoming and so lovely. So it was really great to meet you.
We were pinching ourselves that we were in the audience watching you.
Yes.
And now you're here. Now you're here.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show that everybody is the same. We are all one. There is no separation between any of us. And these pedestals that we put people on, they're fake. They're not real. We are all
illusion.
Just part of each other.
Yes.
So.
Coming together.
Yeah.
So, Emily, when everybody sees this video and they're overwhelmed with inspiration and awe hearing you talk, how could they reach you if they wanted to find out more about you or send you an email? How could they find you?
It's really simple. EmilyFilmore.com, and my last name is F as in Frank, ILMORE, so it's just one word, EmilyFilmore.com, and I'm the one that answers the emails from it. So if they go there, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. And I help manage, or I'm the vice president of a, sorry about that. I'm the vice president of a nonprofit for people with my disease. So I do get to talk to people on a daily basis about how to deal with disease. So I'm more than happy to talk to other people. And, I have had reviews from emails and contacts with people who have read my book, who have bipolar disorder, they have spinal stenosis. I mean, you don't have to have an autoimmune disease to have benefited from my book. I've even had people who say, I don't have anything wrong with me. I read your book and I found inspiration in it. So
beautiful.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to receive emails, and I do answer all my own emails. So.
Wow.
Fabulous.
That's great.
Well, that's all inspiring in and of itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for spending this time with us, Emily, and for enlightening us on just what a beacon of light you are. And
thank you.
I'm so grateful that you shared your story with us and with anyone who watches this recording that we're doing.
Oh, well, I so appreciate you having me, and it's been lovely to talk to you guys. I can't believe it's been 3 months since we saw each other, but it's great to see your beautiful faces. So
you as well. You
as well. All right. Well, thank you
very much, Emily.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck with everything.
You as well.
Thank you.
Right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.